Yes, hello, dumb idiot here with more garbage. I've thought for a good while that Tekken 8's big problem actually comes from the way that the lows are treated by the game. I'm gonna take a look at some of them. I'm gonna largely focus on Tekken 8 lows, so if something has just always been broken, I might note it and be like, this has always been broken, lol. And that's about it, but let's get into the thing. It's gonna take me a minute, we'll see. So let's get started with Alisa here. Might be a bit of a long section as there's gonna be a lot of things I'm gonna have to establish right off the bat as running themes in the design of this game, because we're gonna see a good bit of them here. Starting with this, yes, indeed, a low that's been in every game. Good start to this Tekken 8 low thing. Now, this isn't about this low or its properties, which are admittedly very strong. This is about the fact that this is not parryable. Even this, which is a bug, but we'll see that patched one day, I'm sure. This is because aerial moves are just not meant to be parryable in this game. Because reasons. This is a bug, sort of, I'm not 100% sure. But it has a second part of the move where you can parry it. You can see in the attack startup frames thing that it actually transitions to another part. Just throwing that out there in case you didn't know. A lot of people don't. But like ordinarily this is an unparryable move. Like don't bother even trying. It's just when you're all the way over here. Like if you're gonna block it, it's not gonna be very good to block it. Yeah. So you can try to low parry it, just in case it's in range. But aerial lows, unparryable, is a Tekken 8 problem we'll be seeing. Now this is another problem we'll be seeing. A move being introduced to cover the weakness of a certain situation, or maybe even a character's complete neutral, while also not really presenting risk if it happens to be a low or a really rewarding mid. Like here, this should be launch punishable, right? Easily. This is a power low out of stance that is completely unparryable due to being a weapon move. But of course, you know, strong parry, not that it matters, right? Very common in Tekken 8 to see things like this, as chainsaws used to be a thing where hard sidewalk left literally covered the 50-50 aspect of the stance. But you can no longer do it in an amount of time where you'd be able to duck for this move as well. It's very emblematic of the problems in the design of this game. I have to imagine the -14 problem comes from the dev team having an idea of like, well, it's not that fun to get launched for things, so we're gonna make a bunch of things -14. This, I'm just having it here so I can point out, this has always been here, nothing's changed about it for Tekken 8. But it is horse shit, it will always be broken. 26 damage, -11, come on. This was changed for Season 2 to make it faster. Property-wise, I can't really pretend that there's anything wrong with this low since it doesn't do anything. But also, why is it faster? You remove the reaction check, yeah, like, that's great. Why don't you remove a reaction check in an interesting way? Where, like, I mean, this low is now a different function altogether, but it's just not interesting. Alisa players have no reason to press it. It's linear and doesn't really do anything. And then there's this thing, which a lot of people have noted since the launch of this game as very questionable. This game added a semi-new property. It's been around like in Can-Cans, or Noctis's Emo Man had it in the previous game, where the low into the high will be unduckable when the low hits. This was a semi-rare property, and never ever on something like this. But this game started adding it to strings like this in order to make them more useful in neutral. See, in the previous games you would just duck this every time, and the second hit... In Tekken 7 at least the second hit was a combo tool, so you saw it on occasion. But in this game, you don't actually get to duck it. So this is an actual valid neutral tool, as it is a counter hit wall splat. And on block, genuine mix-up. There were characters that could option select punish this, as the low was -16. So Leroy could actually do a wall standing 1-4 here, and it would go under it, and it would punish the first low. He could also do up forward 1, which is a parry, which would have parried the second hit and punished the low on block. Julia could wall standing 1 it, since her wall standing 1 would just go under the thing, and that was a 15 frame launch. Like, there is now no longer anything other than this for that. There's so many things here about Tekken 8 design, obviously. Not only the completely new thing, the new idea of low-high strings have to jail so they're not as risky, but also so much safer. So much safer on block. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Things don't need to be safer. It's not the only way to make things interesting. Speaking of which, this was a new addition to Tekken 8 as well. This low from her dual boot gave her a low in the first place. Tekken 7 had to add her a low in this stance, which was just eject slider. So dual boot and standard boot just gained access to the same low. She eventually got access to an unblockable high as well, but it was seeable. This is just an unseeable hell sweep. It's a very boring design for something like this. But that's not my problem, that there exists a stance hell sweep on a character, you know? That's not exactly a new concept. For it is Season 2 that has given us the problems. This is not a hell sweep. This is a hell sweep with 2 parts to it. This is not a stagger low into hell sweep mid follow-up. This is a -12 low with a potential follow-up that will be -30-ish, you know? This is not even remotely balanced. Obviously, it's a chainsaw low, this is unparryable. This low on its own is completely broken, as it is an approach tool you can just throw out. Thankfully, somewhat linear, right? But still, heavily plus on hit, extremely safe on block. And you have an incentive to block it and wait. Just because there's a follow-up that you can get a very, very nice launch on. Or, alternatively, you just always block it and you punish it with your wall standing 4. Every time. Giving her a hell sweep that is -12. None of these choices make any sense. This used to be -16 before Season 2 for a reason, you see. No longer the case. It also used to be -6 on hit, so it wasn't a thing you'd poke with. Ever. Like, there was a clear indicator that this was not supposed to be a good move. But it is now a godlike move. Thanks to Season 2. Anna is our first window into character identity in Tekken 8, or lack thereof, as her launch punishable lows that she's been known for in every other game no longer really matter as much. This used to be her main low poke, like, more or less only low poke. She didn't really have anything from standing, it was the whole deal. But now she has down back 4, a -13 low poke. That's really, really strong, considering, like, the situation as well. This gives a homing reversal breaking for some reason, +6 on block. Not a frame trap, but still a mid that she can just throw at you. And yes, she has plenty of things to actually stop you from pressing. But I felt like noting the homing mid that's completely safe and uninterruptible. I feel like that would get the point across. So moving on, the low from the stance. So let's not forget, of course, she goes into a stance that does have a low mid mix-up available, of course. The low from the stance, a little bit more reasonable, but still we're looking at the coward's number as we do on almost everything in Tekken 8. Nothing is allowed to be launch punishable anymore. However, the low didn't look that scary. It didn't do anything. Minus on hit even. However, this is to show 2 things. For 1, it is not minus on hit. For 2, it is now -14. So, yeah, also when she goes into stance on counter hit, +13, she gets a guaranteed heat engager. Of course she does. So, once again, very Tekken 8. This is a new stance for her, so I can't say that it's there to cover the weaknesses of an old stance, but it sure covers weaknesses, being fully homing and also not that punishable. You know, on the character where everything was supposed to be really punishable. This is pleasure time 4. It sure is a low. You would think, based on the fact that it does 21 damage and somehow goes over that number in its frame advantage, it would probably be launch punishable. Well, yeah, it is for Kazuya and only Kazuya, as even Eddy can't do anything about that because she goes in the crouch. Very funny, hilarious even. Historically, in Tag 2, this low was very hard to hit on an opponent, since it had no range and very good backdashing in Tag 2. And even if you somehow managed to hit it on an opponent, no guaranteed hit whatsoever. So what did they do? Okay, in Tekken 7 they added the guaranteed hit. So why are we here? Okay, Tekken 7's guaranteed hit wasn't always guaranteed in the open. You had to do either forward 2 to hit them on the ground, or forward 3 to hit them getting off the ground. And in Tekken 7, despite the gimped backdashing, it was still possible to escape. Now, here we are again. In Tekken 8, our backdashing has been further nerfed. It is no longer possible to realistically escape into neutral. So what's the problem? Well, besides that, the guaranteed hits are stronger than ever. This isn't always guaranteed, as you can see. You have to use your eyes to see whether it is or isn't guaranteed. So what's the mix-up? Well, I mean, you're playing Asuka, so you probably don't have, like, a prefrontal cortex, so you don't really need any of the mix-ups, as there is a actually fully guaranteed hit here, always now. This gives her 36 damage with install, making it one of the most broken power lows in the game. And this can be mixed with her 16 frame completely safe on block mid launcher. Not to mention her insane safe mid launchers that she gets from her install. This thing, a destabilizer, goes into a 50-50 between a low and a mid. And at some point they figured, hey, launch punishability is cringe. This low is minus 14. The coward's number rears its head again. This probably is justifiable because you already have to do a launch punishable risk going for a destabilizer in the first place. But it's still really cringe. As it is, just like down 1+2. The same exact kind of hell sweep, in fact. It is a very strong low with inappropriate risk. But it is low parryable, so there is that. Our first Tekken 8 newcomer here, Azucena, doesn't really have the most broken lows ever. But we can touch upon something that's gonna come up a few times, which is very strong low pokes that aren't that unsafe. Now, this isn't like safe on block or nothing, right? Surely it's just a punish mix with this string, which is another one of those non-duckable ones, but that's an aside. No, this is actually a bit of a problem. Granted, I'm not gonna lie here. You can option select this with a dick jab every time. That's not exactly a punish though. It's nothing. So this gets to be a very strong low poke, only punishable by a dick jab. Which is extremely stacked, all things considered. But it's not broken. But it is something we will get to with more characters. We need to talk about this. Okay, no, we don't. We need to talk about this. Not much. I understand this is just the Tekken 7 though. In fact, they even gave us the ability to sidewalk again. How gracious. Hatchet kick is what it's always been, right? Well, no, not really. Historically it was minus 14 and plus 2. I think those would be good numbers to bring back. Also, reducing it to 20 damage would be reasonable, but I don't really care if it's 20 or 23. What I do care about is the install low, a new move he gained in Season 2. This is minus 13 only, much like the Hatchet Kick, It is sidewalkable left, much like the hatchet kick, and it only does 1 more damage but gives 2 more frames, so what's really the problem? This requires install and full crouch? Well, the +7 Dragunov number aside, this is unparryable. Granted, Leroy, but also, yeah, this is normally just unparryable, and only -13. This makes it a tad bit broken. At least it's not -12 like it used to be at Season 2 launch, but we take what we can get. This needs to be low parryable, unquestionably so. Claudio's not really known for his lows as much as he's known for his mids, so we really don't have much to do here, except for the most obvious thing ever. The low heat smash, which we will get to. 45 extra damage on wall hits. Doesn't matter much, but it's there. 40 damage in the open. Breaks walls, even hard wall breaks, from quite a distance away. And what is this 40 damage low? -14. There's even a second active frame in there, just so it can fuck you over and be -13 whenever it feels like it. One of these days that second active frame is gonna get you. This is designed like complete dog shit from the get-go. It is way too rewarding. It is unparryable. It is completely unsteppable for that matter. And all you get for reading this, blocking this against a character like Claudio with safe mid launchers while in heat, multiple of them, plus on block even for a couple of them, all you get is -14. That is an insane value proposition. That is less than I got than Claudio would get from hitting me with it. The risk reward is statistically, numerically on his side on this interaction. This is completely insane. It should be launch punishable for everyone. It should be -18 or something like that. It shouldn't be homing. It should even do less damage, maybe capping it out at like 32. And it shouldn't activate stage gimmicks. Well, okay, what's the point of the low then? It's just a hell sweep. Yeah, with Claudio, it's just a hell sweep. You know, the character who doesn't really have very scary lows. That's kind of the whole point then, isn't it? Right now, it's just a completely broken move in every aspect. Why isn't it just designed to be a hell sweep? Why does it have to be all of these broken things at the same time? I don't get it. No, Clive is not supposed to be Tekken, but I don't really care. I'm concerned about whether his lows are Tekken. Which, this isn't exactly a broken low. It's still launch, but I do think it should stagger. I don't think there's any business for this being like this. It does make it easier to punish if it staggers, and I do think a low like that should have that. This is more of a pet peeve than anything, but while standing 4 frame trap from this is just fully homing for some reason. It's not broken or anything, I just don't like it. This is a low damage hell sweep, who cares, okay? Okay, he has another one that's higher damage. Okay, I still don't care about the numbers. Even in heat, if it's 38 damage. It's a lot of damage, but the problem is the hit property. He can choose to either wall break or floor break with his hell sweep, a semi-unique trait that generally isn't afforded to hell sweeps. You either get your wall break like almost everyone does, or you do your floor break like Jin does. But no, Clive actually gets to make a choice, meaning this has very high utility regardless of the stage he's on, as long as there's a stage gimmick on it. I do think this should be reduced to just one of these hell sweeps rather than him having access to both. And this, I don't know if it's just me, feels like a bit of a misstep in design. I could talk about how historically low slides like this should be launch punishable, but I don't really care about that as much as I care about the fact that on counter hit, this is extremely strong. On normal hit, it does good damage, and since it's not that unsafe, why oh why is this the fastest low in the stance. You see, a low like this probably shouldn't be the highest coverage and the safest option at the same time out of his stance. Again, just like with down one, is it super broken? No, not really. I just feel like it's a little bit questionable. Devil Jin has always had this, but in this game it's very notable, of course, due to the fact that there's no recoverable damage. And it is more plus than ever at +7, the Dragunov number. This isn't crazy or nothing, but it is notable. It is extremely strong. It's here where we run into issues. Tekken 5 and Tekken 7 also had a launching Hell Sweep, but you were forced to do a 1+4 pickup in order to kill the scaling immediately after doing the launcher. This game's approach to the launcher is a little bit different due to the instant tornado. This does limit its damage due to it being back-turned and a low damage tornado immediately. However, Season 2 said, but what if no? What if no? That is guaranteed. This new Hell Sweep string is completely broken as a wall combo on back-turned opponents. However, this Hell Sweep string isn't something that just exists in that context. It's something that completely ignores the design of the move. You know how the first hit, or at least the first 2 hits in the previous games, would be the thing killing the scaling on this, lowering the damage? There's nothing here to lower its damage. It immediately starts off with a high damage tornado, which, yeah, the instant tornado is supposed to attempt to lower the damage. It doesn't do that though. So now we have a launching Hell Sweep with very high damage actually. There is a balancing factor attempted here in that it is heat only, and even on block and even on whiff, this does actually use up its heat. I still believe that this goes against the entire identity of the move in every possible way, even if it is a heat low. And it really doesn't fit. I really liked the idea of the back turn launch because it forced you to learn things like back turn wall combos. But now he's been given a back turn wall combo that is stronger than just the average wall combo in the first place. It really has to be addressed. All things considered, Dragunov doesn't really present us with issues in terms of his lows, considering he's been through so many nerfs. Character identity-wise, it's still worth talking about these lows, as the whole thing used to be that his down 2 was his low coverage, and his only low coverage. This used to be +7 on hit and -15, which made it really hard to punish because of no block stun. So this used to be a very broken low, and it still is a very strong low, hitting grounded, doing a lot of damage, doing so, having a counter hit property. All of these things that Dragunov really didn't have in the past. But, you know, it's been nerfed, so whatever. Same thing here, this used to have a counter hit property. It's still otherwise the same exact move though. Has a ton of frames. Yeah, he's forced into stance, so he's forced into stance options. Doesn't really matter much. And a ton of damage. This is not a character that's supposed to be a full crouch mix character, but they gave him a full crouch mix up low. And naturally, it's not that unsafe. Of course not. Is it broken? Again, yeah, it's just not really broken, but what about the character's identity is eluding everyone at the dev team? Now this is more of a meme low. This is a Season 2 new move. The other one being the mid from this pigeon roll. This gives him easy access to essentially a Hell Sweep, which is kind of cringe, obviously. It's not like it's safe or anything, but it's just kind of cringe. Eddy's kind of always had really toxic, really good lows. And despite the fact that Tekken 8 adjusted pretty much every single one of them, he still has plenty of issues, and they're almost all tied to a singular low, which is pretty funny. Not to mention this whole problem, I do think should obviously be addressed, but the coward's number, of course, that is a requirement. It's a base level requirement for lows in Tekken 8. This is a very, very, very long range low. Since it comes out of a forward dash, you can even extend its range. It is, thankfully, not homing. Thank fucking god. However, it's still extremely strong at +6 in the stance, or that, which guarantees this. There's a follow-up to that heat engages, and it does 50 damage on wall splats or launches. Obviously, this is here, so I can show you. That's a frame trap. That's a straight-up actual frame trap. That is also completely homing. Now, okay, that's just a mid, though, right? That can't be that bad. That's a frame trap. That's completely homing. So forward 4-3 represents probably like the best example. Not the strongest example, but the best example of Tekken 8's design flaws in making things Tekken at all. Forward 4-3 is just button guaranteed mix-up. Coin flip completely. There's no thought behind any of it. You can literally just do a coin flip mix-up out of this, and you realistically do not have an option against this. It's a frame trap low and a frame trap mid, and they're both homing. Is this a strong mix-up? No, as I said, this isn't really the strongest example of this kind of design. That's not the problem, nor the point. The point is about the gameplay design itself. Is it Tekken? Is it even fun at all? Is it anything smart? No, not really. And to cap it off, we of course have an install low, which doesn't have appropriate risk reward at all. Even the level 1 version does a ton of damage while only being -13. Now, thank fuck it is low parryable. But then there's the level 2 install version, which is obviously completely fucked. This launches on floor break, naturally. 35 damage is a lot of damage for a -13 low. Feng's kinda always had really strong lows according to everyone, and Tekken 8 for some reason decided that it wasn't enough, he needed more. So they sped up QCF1, which has pretty much notably always been a seeable low. C ability in Season 2, as we know, not really allowed anymore. This is -14 like it has always been, so the coward's number accusations don't really apply here. However, it is unparryable to make up for this. He has really good tracking for some insane reason, as well as some absurd range. Also, he's just literally not even touching me. He just isn't. He straight up isn't, but hey, whatever. And they decided that that should be a low that's constantly in use for Feng, for approach, of course. Makes perfect sense. This is a new move he gained in Tekken 8, sort of. It used to be part of a string, 1+4, which I think you can still do the input like that, but if you do full crouch down forward 4-1, you'll be getting this as a string rather than what it used to be, which was a forced 2-hit move. This also used to have a stagger on block, where it was always launch punishable due to that. Notably, it is not launch punishable. This is -14-ish. Lever has a punish that does always hit, so it's worth, you know, noting that. I don't even really need to show it off. But there are characters whose 14 frames can be blocked from this situation. It depends on something. I'm not 100% sure, but it just does. Now, why is this so goddamn good? Well, pause 3 and back turn, less toxic than it was in Season 1. However, it's still incredibly toxic as it leaves Feng really close to you, meaning that a backdash will probably not get you away from the low launch of this. That's the thing with the back turn. Historically, it had like 2 lows. It had the low launcher and then the generic back turn low, which in this game, the generic back turn lows are terrible. So we compensate. Ordinarily, I wouldn't really even point this out much. I mean, it's still a big addition to this stance. It gives you a safer low to actually do. However, in Season 2, they kind of missed out on the fact that this is now a counter hit launcher on some characters. And he does a down 4 into back 4 to pick up here, and it does fully launch. Not everyone universally. Leroy doesn't get launched, for example. But it's a little insane. Much like a Dragunov, I think the only thing we can realistically address here, outside of the obvious, which we'll get to, is character identity issues. There's no way to pretend that this low is like extremely strong or anything. It's just a really good utility low poke, you know? Can't get away from it. This is a Devil Jin down 3 with no damage and less range, and notably, it does hit grounded, giving a flip over, which is actually a really, really strong property. But everything else about this low is pretty middling. It has very little range, it has very little damage, and minus 13 when these would usually be more like minus 12. The obvious problem being character identity. This is on Heihachi of all characters. It shouldn't be. This should be like minus, I don't know, minus 4 on hit and minus 14 on block. Like, yeah, I know. That's crazy, but this is Heihachi. Same thing here. This is actually reasonable on hit, even doing pretty much nothing on counter hit. But I do think this should be minus 15 instead of minus 14. This gives him easy access to a damaging low, with not really Heihachi levels of risk. And then the obvious. Very, very obvious. The Warrior Instinct Hell Sweep is deliberately unbalanced. I don't know if it's fair to bring up here as an example of anything when this has deliberately been made completely broken. But it is still, like, we still have to play against this version of Heihachi pretty much every game, you know? Worth noting, it is possible to parry the second low, but it doesn't really help. The first low doesn't stagger and is minus 14 on block, and it is never ever worth punishing the minus 14. It's essentially homing. It's really, really hard to get away from. You need really good sidewalking timing. And then everyone's seen that, you know, if you do an approaching move into his back after sidewalking it, that happens. We've all seen that. We're all aware of it, right? This low is broken and it is deliberate. I don't think that's very sensible just because of Warrior Instinct. I do think this should stagger and then be minus 14 rather than not staggering. It is immediately worth noting that this game finally addressed Hwoarang's most problematic and toxic low. This used to be extremely hard to launch punish, where now it's an automatic thing that just sort of happens. They did reduce the damage and then increased it right back, which I really don't agree with, considering other lows of this type have had this treatment without being reverted. But that's whatever. The mid options from the stance have also gotten to be a little questionable. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. This is character identity issues. Hwoarang was generally a linear character, so they addressed that by making him able to do this. Homing very long range approach low that goes straight into mix-ups. This is a frame trap. I'm not saying no options exist, but hard reads do not really make me feel too good about it. So yeah, worth noting, minus 14, the coward's number, of course. Ironically, this used to be a minus 40 low when Beck had it, but whatever, I guess. This low is something that's always been there, but it is obviously Tekken 8 that's made it really problematic. This counter hit property always existed, right? And this block situation always existed. This isn't made more toxic necessarily for it being in this game, however, it does make it another one of those safe punish mix-up lows, which this game is full of. There is a big issue in that there has been a bit of an increase in his counter hit potential due to this. He can also do this off his 2-jab, but for some reason his 2-jab had the scaling reduced on counter hit, whereas this was just left as is. Just your average 40 damage launcher from a safe 16 frame low. Granted, it's not homing, so I can't say that it is. But still a little fucked up. I honestly cannot pretend that Jack has any broken lows at all. Not even remotely. His one broken low, which you could argue in itself is an identity issue since his full crouch down back one has always been there. It's now been removed for the first time ever. And that's a good thing. Like, let's be real for a second. Full crouch down back one in its earlier iteration was not at all a fun thing for anyone to deal with. For those unaware, full crouch down back one used to be just straight up safe on block, and it used to be very good on hit, something like -9 and +6. And the second hit, which yeah, it came out of a string of 3 lows, the second hit would be -2 on block and +9 on hit. And in Tekken 6, that was also the frames on the first hit, which made it very funny. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this was a failed experiment of a string. This is actually a pretty good compromise for still keeping the move safe, unless Leroy is on screen. It also incentivizes low parrying, which is what you should have been doing all along. But, like, this isn't broken. This is, in fact, not even bad design. This isn't anything to even note in a video like this. This is the thing closest I could think about for Jack, where maybe there's a bit of an issue. Like, this has more range than ever due to bad backdashing, and also they did up the range on this low. So you can actually hit this on opponents in the open. However, that happens a good amount, and yeah. This is a reasonable -70 on block and -63 on hit with. So, no, it's not a problem at all, actually. You know, fun fact, it was actually Jin that inspired me to sit down and start yapping about lows. Despite the elephant in the room being right here, this is not the reason for it. However, this is pretty much a collection of every single issue regarding low design in Tekken 8. This used to have, like, I feel like twice the range. This used to be completely homing, I feel. Even though they didn't touch the tracking. I just think the range nerf hit it somehow. But it used to be impossible to step. This used to counter hit launch. Other than that, every other property has been maintained. Of course, the high damage, the somewhat high range, high frames on it, the coward's number, of course. It's all there outside of the key property of counter hit launch and I think the infinite range, which, yeah. This has been talked about a million times by a million people. It is completely broken still, and it used to be arguably the most broken low ever. And no, it is not seeable. Sitting in practice mode reacting to this doesn't mean that it's seeable. But that's not really the big issue. It was this that inspired this, actually. 33 damage. 30 in the open. Season 2 doesn't like seeable lows, which this used to be 24 frames, and I was capable of reacting to it consistently. Now I can react to it inconsistently, which is very fun to deal with, considering, even if I did the coward's number, it's not fun to get launched when you do a hell sweep, which, yes, 30 damage. Isn't that funny? This low is completely overtuned, and it should be either seeable or just do like 20 damage. This is unreasonable for a -14 low that is unseeable. Now, this whole thing. This isn't among the most broken of these kind of sweeps, but I do have to still note that there is a hell sweep on my screen that is doing 35 damage and not being launch punishable. Now, Jun used to have a -12 low, but it was since nerfed to -14. I'm just straight up lying to you. This was actually buffed. This used to be her heat smash, you see. Now granted, this does mean that since it's not a smash, it is parryable, which is nice. But she can still do this twice. Look at the damage it does. That can wall splat. Look at the damage I do. Oh wait, it's the same number. Very fucking cool. I don't really care about anything regarding her lows though. I really don't. I care about one and only one low. And it might be a little obvious. This isn't because the low is fucked risk reward and too good of a mix-up. No, this is an entirely different utility from every other low on this video. Everyone is aware of the Can-Can. It is an extremely high damage counter hit launcher that should realistically tornado instantly, which still wouldn't reduce its damage appropriately. It is unparryable due to being an aerial move, which is the Tekken 8 problem here. Not to mention the fact that in Tag 2 this did not do this. This pushback is a new thing. -6 on block. It doesn't track, granted, but on hit whiffs it only goes to -14 if you get it to hit whiff, which is often what happens when you sidestep this move. Now the big problem is in its immense safety, because Jun backdashes out of this. What are you going to do? You're going to whiff. She's going to forward too. It's very skewed risk reward, despite it being a launch punishable low. I know that might sound a little insane, but trust me, it is exactly that. This is unparryable, which leads to a problem in that usually when you low parry, you're going to activate neutral guarding because you are not pressing back. And neutral guarding gets you automatically launched by this low. It's just a natural combo if you stand still and do nothing. This can happen in the middle of a backdash, for example, like that. It can happen while you're low parrying. It can happen if you're doing a step block and you didn't hit the block fast enough. But then this might happen quite often. This causes many issues. And really the only way to address it isn't to necessarily make this an unsafe move. This should be like Asuka's with -8 no pushback, but also this needs to always force the block if it's not a counter hit. Yeah, we have to talk about it. So this game didn't really change his hell sweep massively. It's more of a wall quirk that actually caused the difference in how this move works. If you get Kazuya at like a 1-degree angle, sometimes that happens, which gives him much more access to wall splats with this hell sweep. I do think that the wall splat should be entirely removed. I think it should just wall break. However, I understand that there is a design issue with that. Because it might just make this the better hell sweep. Because, yeah, more wall carry, quite good Oki. This used to be designed in a way where it was supposed to be more wall carry, higher damage, but no Oki. But then someone just removed 5 frames out of the recovery and made it also give Oki. Very questionable design choice in that. It also made this -9 instead of -14, which is very annoying. However, granted, this used to be a low when he did CD44, and that low was a launcher. So, at least you can finally block when he whiffs his hell sweep. However, this does present another issue that will probably never be addressed, because I've never seen anyone complain about it. I think I'm the only person to have ever even pointed it out, but there you go. Now for something genuinely broken and genuinely Tekken 8. Yes, this existed in Tekken 7 as well. Does not matter. It is Tekken 8 that actually really made it a problem by giving him access to it pretty much every round. He used to have to become Devil in order to use this in Tekken 7. And, well, that would require you to waste your rage on becoming Devil or hit your rage drive. And even then, people didn't really risk the hell sweep as much. So you saw it a lot less. This does have the problem of CD44. in that fuck your punishment. But this is more of a Tekken 8 issue than anything. Strings that advance, if you sidewalk them and you try to punish, you are an idiot. How dare you even try? But this has a big problem. And it is when you block the mid. Let me back up a little bit. This doesn't jail, meaning that there is a genuine string mix-up on this hell sweep. That's completely broken, not because if you fucking die for it or nothing. Like that's not what it means. I mean, it's broken. It's non-functional. This is nonsense. This is complete nonsense. As is this low. I think this might be the first part where the Kazuya players might actually even agree if they have any sense, but we have the coward's number here, naturally. This is just Jin down 2, with less range and less tracking, but it maintains its counter hit launch. Yeah, it's a lot more seeable. This is something I react to a lot more consistently, sure. But this goes against a lot of Kazuya designs, doesn't it? It high crushes, it counter hit launches, and it's not that unsafe. And it hits grounded, by the way. Of course it does. Because he needs it. It's not like he has good grounded hitting lows already. Oh well, I'm not gonna get myself on the ground then. It's not that it's the most broken low in the game. It's just that it doesn't make much sense in his kit in terms of his design. Right? Character identity. We got something a lot rougher than character identity here, though. This is a homing 18 frame heat smash, which means that we are not low parrying, we are taking the 40 damage, or we're blocking it and we're getting less damage as a punish, of course. Now, notably, this doesn't have a wall hit bonus like all the other heat smashes. Notably, right? That's notable. It's the only one. Yeah, he sure doesn't get anything, does he? Naturally, we're going to have to address first and foremost the identity issues regarding this character. Since he's always been like the grappler of the Tekken series. His whole thing was that he'll do throws, and he has very strong mids to mix them up with. So, throws being highs means there's something to duck for, except when you react to the actual break every time. Because they are reactable, until he does a fucking giant swing, and no it isn't actually. That's a bit of a problem when the animation doesn't actually tell you what throw is coming. But we are completely going to forego that issue, and we're just gonna give him a completely broken low anyway. So this would be a stupid strong low in anyone's kit, but King in particular is very egregious to have this kind of low on him. This used to be minus 14, not in this game, but before, when Armor King had this, which, yes, this is Armor King's forward neutral too, not King's. King's used to also be minus 14 though, so to be fair. But King's was also, what, +1 on hit? This is +5, and this used to be +7 for some insane reason. Granted, unlike Armor Kings, they did completely drop the counter hit launch, but this is still an extremely strong counter hit property, with no recoverable damage, I would like to note. This low is extraordinarily questionable to have on a character whose design is not about having strong lows. When this low alone is pretty much stronger than half the lows in the game, if not more. Now this here is just because of the coward's number. This used to be minus 15, you see. Like, yeah, I used the counter hit launch, so they did nerf a property on it, but this is a little stupid. At least it's seeable. This character doesn't really have lows. Now, yeah, I could be like, well, I mean, look at this thing. Down back 2 used to be minus 13, and now it's minus 15. And it does less damage than ever and doesn't do anything on hit. What the fuck were they thinking? Well, yeah, actually, genuinely, this design doesn't make any sense. It's still fitting to talk about it. This legitimately makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But it's not been addressed and probably never will. However, I would like to welcome you to Season 2, where this serves a low function, being an unbreakable throw. This is extraordinarily broken, and for the first time ever makes Panda better than Kuma. That plus 12 is a real plus 12, giving a guaranteed forward 2-1 for a wall splat. This means that if you put Panda to the wall yourself, I hope you like guessing. At the very least, unlike most throws, this has a reasonable amount of whip recovery. Worth noting, I guess. Regarding everyone's favorite Mishima, we're gonna have to talk about everyone's favorite move right off the bat. Of course, everyone recognizes the input, we've all had it ingrained into our minds. Of course, that's funny. But also, this might remind you of something. This is Den 3+4. On its own, this low is also actually really, really good. And worth noting, Den is not a stance that used to have lows, so this game kind of fucked that up. Notably, he's not draining heat, even though I picked out of the move list a move that's supposed to be a heat move, now didn't I? Unlike Devil Jin on whiff and on block, this actually doesn't drain any of his heat. But it sure does on hit. Despite the minus 14 on block, this is actually not minus 14, as he can enter stance and do an armor to interrupt 13 frame punishment, making this a real minus 12 hell sweep. Which we can address with this, since it is a minus 12 hell sweep. Now granted, it recovers in crouch, so Leroy gets his funny punish, so I'm not that bothered by it. It's still a little fucked up though. Usually on this I would get a Iwa standing 4, you see. That would really, really annoy me. Thankfully it is low parryable. Thankfully it comes out of a rather slow to enter stance, except in Season 2 where they said, what if he had a bunch of stance entries? Still not very balanced at all. Now this hell sweep is actually genuinely quite well balanced. Despite doing very high unrecoverable damage, it's been given minus frames on hit, which it historically always had. Now, what if instead plus 11? I love Tekken 8. This goes into dynamic entry, meaning you wouldn't get a mix-up, but this is Tekken 8 dynamic entry. As I said earlier, they added Den lows because he needs them. So yeah, it actually gives mix-ups. This low has a number of issues with it now. A fucking number of them. Aside from the fact that it's a 24 damage minus 12 low, this used to require you to enter full crouch and do full crouch down forward 1+2, which is no longer an available input as it has been taken over by the rage art. So this used to be 18 frames and then the 11 required from the full crouch entry. You now have to enter crouch for roughly 6 frames to get this out. This means that this move is pretty much on the line of being unseeable, making this very strong as a standard low pull for Lars to just throw out there, especially considering it's minus 12. Now, Season 2 ruined everything, but most importantly it ruined this. This is limited entry. These are both homing. This +3 may not be a frame trap into this, but it still means you are forced to interact here, or you are forced to guess, giving him a 3-way mix with no risk from a low that should be its own reward, considering its high damage and extremely low risk. But nope, Season 2. And this low is here because it's really funny. Back in the day, this started off as a minus 17 seeable low. It used to be not only launch punishable, but straight up seeable. This stance really just didn't have an animation mix-up whatsoever for it. Tekken 7 reduced the startup frames, making it a little less seeable, but still it was quite fuzzyable due to its slow startup compared to everything else in the stands. Tekken 7 also completely ruined everything by making it minus 13, and I think then minus 12. Why is minus 12 such a problem? Well, we have hatchet kick damage at 23 and plus 6 on hit, force crouch, and a counter hit launch on a minus 12 low. We're getting to the realm where the startup no longer matters. This is not even remotely reactable anymore. So this is just a broken stance mix-up low now. It should probably have its counter hit launch removed, but even then I don't think it would be too balanced. Law is the slide. This has always been there, and it's always been his method of breaking turtles. Right? Tekken 8 made changes to slides, however. Slides remain non-launch punishable, although this is the first game where they made sure we have an entire roster of characters able to launch the slide every time, which is a really funny thing to note. This used to give this knockdown, and then Law would recover on the ground with you, and then he would either get up and not do anything, and therefore mix you up on your wake up, or he would do a get up kick low and get his guaranteed hit. This was supposed to be a balancing factor for the slides, where they would do high damage on the first hit, and then low damage on the guaranteed follow-up, and then lose their Oki entirely after doing that guaranteed follow-up. Tekken 8 is an offense looping game. Now granted, there was an attempt to nerf the actual Oki on this. This knockdown used to be a flip over, which he retains in heat. And in heat, his nunchuck drains his heat, which means this is a limited thing. They successfully got rid of the slide vortex, right? Successfully removed the slide vortex. Oh wait! So Season 2 made it so he recovers heat when he uses nunchucks. Meaning, slide is now a heat recovery low. Very cool, very cool. Very extraordinarily cool. This low was recently buffed for some reason. He needs it. This always counter hit launched. It's just easier now. Like, you always get that launch for free. This shouldn't counter hit launch. Look at this low. Plus 6. Minus 13. That's crazy good on its own. It doesn't even need a counter hit property. It didn't even need a counter hit knockdown of any kind. But a launch? Are you serious? Are you actually joking? It's a little insane. This low is notably balanced for what it is. They gave Law a sidestep low. He's not a sidestep mix-up character. And they actually went very reasonable with it. So I think this can be permitted. I don't think it fucks the character identity at all, because it's not super high damage. It just gives him a DSS situation, which isn't extraordinarily scary or anything. It's a little hard to step, sure, but it's low parryable and minus 13. And even on counter hit, it doesn't give anything insane. It gives him a guaranteed hit, right? He gets a either 3+4/4 or he gets a DSS forward 1. Like, it's not crazy. I think it's a finely balanced move for a change. We'll have to be a little bit careful with this one, so we don't accidentally upplay his lows, since he doesn't have any lows, or mids, or highs. And his combos don't do any damage. That's why we have an entire list of lows here to talk about, though, so... This is a completely linear low that you cannot step in either direction. I mean, you can step in both directions. This is launch punishable to make up for that, so definitely the risk reward is completely reasonable. Especially considering this is 15 frames, making it the fastest power low in the game. Which is completely incidental since it does no damage. The number over on the right is actually lying. It's actually healing Leroy if you really look closely. The +4 on hit is fake frames. He goes into stance. You can see he goes into missed step. And he definitely can't just access his entire move list out of that and do a cross-track in down forward 1 frame trap versus a down forward 4 mid frame trap. That's not a real thing. That's all lies. Now here's a -4 low heat smash, which he can do twice. This is a bug, so it's not really fair to point out. It also comes out of stance, which makes it completely useless. This is his real low heat smash. As you can see, it's a -14 on block low heat smash, which makes it the worst one in the game. The other ones are definitely better on block. It gives 40 damage, which is so much less than all the others. Look, it gives 41 on the wall hit instead of 45. That makes it the genuine worst low heat smash in the game. Even though Kazuya gets 0. Yeah. This is genuinely the only low heat smash that can be sidewalked in a direction, which is to the left. But only to the left. So good luck with that. Now this on counter hit is a 12 frame homing low, which gives a 41 damage wall splat. Now this doesn't really matter at all because this low is -16 on hit. As you can see, I just killed him for trying to do it to me, of course. Also on hit you can always duck this and you can always punish, so therefore it's actually really bad. But never mind any of that. I can't even come up with fake downplay for this. This is a pretty much homing low, which +4 on hit, very high damage, counter hit property. Oh wait, no, it's 21 frames, so I can call it reactable. This is the worst slide in the game, since it's the only one that's realistically launch punishable, since it's -15. So despite it giving quite good frames at +5 and 26 damage, which is quite high, it doesn't actually do anything since it's always launch punishable. Every time you block this, you get a launch. Every single time, always. Especially when it's -10. This is a Tekken 7 low. I can't pretend that the game made this broken. It's -12, +5, and counter hit launches. But I can't pretend that it's okay just because Tekken 7 had it, you know? Same thing here. Tekken 7 had the full crouch sweep. Tekken 7 didn't allow you to fully launch with it at the wall though, so... Those are minor things to point out. These are the actual things to do. Look at that! It jails. Unlike Kazuya. However, is this otherwise broken or something? No. I do think that it's actually pretty good design that they removed the ability to wall splat on that third hit. It's quite nice. But we can't have nice things forever. The coward's number, because it's an install low. And yeah, install low, not his heat low. That actually got completely shifted to be an install move. How very cool is that? It's a wall splatting hell sweep. And it's -14. We've been over this. Season 2's new move here is the Bok 3+4. It's essentially home. It is very hard to get away from. This used to be -12, so it was a lot more broken. It's still a little broken because of the fact that despite its reduction in frames, that +2 allows a fully homing while standing forward check afterwards. It's a bit like Clive's down 1 where it's like, it's annoying, but it's all tied to such a strong low. Homing 20 damage, not that unsafe. From a stance that historically didn't even have lows. So Lidia, okay, I mean, this is the best low in the game. I've been saying this for a good long while. In the network tests, it was in the first one, It was pretty damn good, but it lost out to his down back 4, which was a counter hit launcher and minus 14, which no longer the case on either of those points, thanks a lot. But then the closed beta test made this the best low in the game. This low is plus 5 on hit, and on block it's a go fuck yourself. This is a really, really rough punishment mix-up. You can do a 13 frame move, or you can do a throw. And if you're suicidal or just do not have options, you will have to go 11 or 12 frames on this, meaning perfect parry, which I don't think is even worth considering the risk. Alternatively, you wait it out and you do something like that. This tracks very well to both sides, but it is worth noting this is not a homing low. This can be sidewalked to both sides, but it will always catch anyone's sidestep. But even ever since Tekken 7, Leroy was not meant to be sidestepped. He is a character you sidewalk exclusively. Now, why is this low so damn good? Well, this is its counter hit property. You already saw this was plus 5 on hit, which means stance mix-ups, right? That doesn't even matter. These counter hit properties, which allow him to either wall splat from a mile away, wall splat with a heat engage, or just straight up launch the opponent. That's what makes this a completely broken low. And yes, it high crushes, because of course it does. It used to mid crush, which was very funny. They did get rid of that. Why am I talking about this? Now, this used to be minus 15. This isn't exactly a pointless frame change. No one in the history of ever has launched that minus 15. But generic down force, which used to be this move, used to be a low where it was minus 13 on block and minus 2 on hit, and they got nerfed out of the game. They were universally made minus 15 and minus 4, which is the generic frames for a full crouch down 4. This low is just the generic down 4. It is minus 13 on block, minus 2 on hit, and high crushes. It's lower at 15 frames, but that is an extraordinarily strong low, all things considered. All things considered. This has a follow-up. This isn't trivial. Notably, this follow-up is a counter-hit launcher, but only with heat burst. So, there's that. This low got fucked in the Season 2 patch. Originally, it gave counter-hit sidestep 4 into 2-2 for 50 damage standing. This was a little unique, considering wall, wasn't really a thing you got out of this unless you traded. It was pulsing more than anything to get a wall splat at. Then you had Claudio, who got a guaranteed knockdown. Like, sidestep lows were all very different, and I liked the fact that Leroy's was completely different from the others. Until now, where on counter hit, this I do believe is a little strong, all things considered. To cap it off with the obvious, there is nothing to even say here. This is a fully homing low launcher, 20 frames, unseeable, completely unparryable because it's a weapon move. Again, Leroy strong parry, which makes this a funny mirror match because you do this to them. But minus 14 on block. This is a launcher, like a real ass launcher, for fuck's sake. This is no joke. This is completely broken. And yes, it's been given a balancing factor. You can use it one time per match. You get one attempt to hit it on an opponent. This does not even remotely approach balanced, even still. Realistically speaking, with Lidia, there is only one thing to address, and it's only become a problem in Season 2. And it is this low. This used to be a knockdown. So it used to be weaker, in fact. It used to be minus, what, 16 on block? It's no longer the case because we once again fell victim to cowardice. We have minus 14 on a power low with hell sweep damage. And oh boy, does it not end there. As she levels up to max, she gets 38 damage. And at the wall, this guarantees the hand stomp for a completely reasonable amount of damage. Well, if it isn't the outlier low heat smash. 39, not 40 damage. It doesn't even give the wall property. That must mean that there's something up here. Well, there is. This is minus 13. Lili is able to armor through 14 frame punishment when in this position. This means that for some unfortunate characters, there is no punish at all, because it also, for some reason, features pushback, which Lili holds down back from here and she is fucking gone. That's unfair and obviously, quite frankly, broken. Now, generic backturn lows being removed meant that Lili had to have a compensation buff. Of course she did. So Tekken 8 gave her a new move in her backturn, which is backturn down 2 here. This is a fully homing low. It is plus 5 on hit and minus 12 on block. So you would think that since it's also doing 17 damage, there is literally no way this has a counter hit property. But it does. It does 42 damage on counter hit. This is about as overtuned as a low can ever get. And it's probably not gonna get addressed, because everything is fun. Tekken 8 loved to make lows unseeable when they were historically seeable, much like this backturn sweep. It's still stagger, at least, so things could be worse. But it gives more damage than ever at 47 points of it, despite the fact that it was also buffed to be unseeable. That is insane. And of course the biggest problem as the last. Is this a huge issue? Actually, yeah, I mean, this is way too safe for what it is. However, this is not the low we know. This is the low we know. This does a completely reasonable 44 damage at a completely reasonable minus 13. And of course, even in heat, it keeps its counter hit launch because she needs it. This is completely homing. It's just laughable. Nina hasn't really had big changes to her lows for Tekken 8, but there's still one thing here to consider. This low on its own is not even remotely the problem. It's still a really good low, but it's this. Historically, down 2 has had down 2-3, a high follow-up, which has otherwise meant you do a dick jab here and you will always punish this thing. But now you get counter hit launched for attempted. Down 2-3 was a counter hit launcher too. Nothing's changed here except for the fact that everything's changed here. This also makes it much safer to attempt this counter hit, which is, all things considered, quite strong when it used to be launch punishable to even try for it. Now this is the problem. Season 2, who could have guessed, is the problem. Season 2 added the ability to go into crouch dash from this low on hit and on block. Not that it really matters as much, but I mean, it's there, right? Something for you to consider. It's just not insanely strong or anything. This actually does give her a real ass mix-up, however, because you can't just sidestep everything. There are moves that track this side. There's a move that tracks both sides. So this is a little toxic now, actually, all things considered. And this low has always been here, and it's always done the same thing that it's always done, which is be the most annoying full crouch sweep that exists. Tekken 7 introduced the QCF2 for this, so again, This isn't a Tekken 8 thing. This is always counter hit launched. Again, not a Tekken 8 thing. But I cannot realistically sit here with Nina on the screen and not bring up Wipe the Floor, as it is by far the best full crouch sweep in the game with no clean hit requirement, 40 damage on hit, extraordinarily good Oki on hit, and for some stupid reason, because of legacy I guess, counter hit launches fully. It's also among the most evasive, but I mean, whatever, right? It's pretty much full homing, as full crouch sweeps tend to be. It's always been there, but it shouldn't be the argument for this. This shouldn't be as good as it is. With Paul, we can start with a very minor thing here. Back 4 used to have no counter hit property. It used to be +2 on hit. They figured Paul needs to have pressure off of this low for some reason. It's not broken, but it is a little bit of a questionable thing for his identity, as this is not how Paul has supposedly worked ever. Speaking of which, this is the Season 2 new move. Full crouch down forward 4. And essentially homing low. Good damage. Pretty much hatchet kick damage. And good frames. And look at that. The usual counter hit property as expected. And would you believe me if I said this low is not even launch punishable? Because you'd think with Paul, a character with issues regarding the low specifically, something like this would be. Season 2, Tekken 8, character identity does not exist. So we don't do that anymore. And notably, speaking of more character identity issues, this can be accessed from Deep Dive, making it an extremely good approach move. You know, Paul, the character who's historically been like a keep-out character, he's rushed down now, shut up. And then, of course, he has a low heat smash. This is pretty much the same low heat smash that Claudio has. Pretty much in every single way. Same frames, same homing, same damage, same properties. Finally, same properties, as it was recently made -14 instead of -12, which it was from the alpha tests to, I don't know, last patch. When was it made -4? I don't fucking care. This is broken regardless. It's a low heat smash. Raven is one of these. Aqua Spider used to be the haze low, but then the stance was removed, so they moved it to full crouch, and then later gave down forward 3 as a cheater input to access it pretty much from standing. This low is pretty much how you should play your lows in neutral. There's really very little reason to use other ones, because this is so stacked. Its frames do not matter on hit at all, and not on block either, we'll get to that. But it's very high damage, pretty much homing, so full coverage, extreme range, and a great counter hit property. And as I said about the block frames, they really just do not even matter. This is a full option select punish, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there are characters capable of doing this to him. But that is 20 damage. That really does not matter. Now granted, you can bait it out by timing it. But unlike normal parries, you can't option select anything here realistically. You just have to take your, like, forced teleport punishment option select thing, which gives you a very weak punish. So this low is very premium due to it. Back turn down 2 is the Season 2 new low. I don't know why it exists, I really don't. It's -12, insane counter hit property. Funny punish. +4 on hit, and he can choose back turn or front turned. So, yeah, if you can sidestep it like that, then it must not be that good. Oh wait, yeah, no, it's not exactly a balanced feeling low, you know? But that's Season 2 lows for you. This slide used to be launch punishable, and Season 2, we do coward numbers, we do not do launch punishable. This did lose its counter hit launch property, but this is a very strong counter hit flow still. as well as just generally being a very strong low, given its active frames, given its normal hit damage, which is very high. So this low is now completely overtuned, whereas it used to be even arguably bad. I don't think it was bad, but arguably. And then of course, seeable lows, we don't do those. This does put it still at a pretty slow speed, meaning that you have some seeability to this. But note the range, note the frames. -12, +5. Note the range. This isn't homing, but that's probably because it's a legacy low, if anything. Low parryable, which is its only saving grace, and guaranteed 1+2 on counter hit with heat engage or launch. The second Tekken 8 newcomer. Technically introduced last, so whatever, but we're going alphabetical. She's basically supposed to be Heihachi. Reina is supposed to have very, very strong mids and not very good lows, just like Heihachi. It's got all the Mishima things going on, including the Hell Sweep. So, problem here. No, she's not like Heihachi at all, actually. She just completely forgoes all of that and gets a Hell Sweep because reason. This Hell Sweep is all unrecoverable damage, so it being 28 is a bit misleading. Despite Leroy doing more damage, he realistically does less damage. Is it broken? Not necessarily. I think as far as Hell Sweeps go, this is pretty balanced. But it is a Heihachi type character with a Hell Sweep. So, as I said, Reina doesn't have very good lows, which was genuinely true that she didn't have extremely good low poking. Like, she had what? Down back 4, sidestep 4, down back 2, which was launch punishable and didn't even do much of anything. So, naturally, what do we do for her in Season 2? We give her a standard as low poke. Just a normal as low poke. Yes, on counter hit, we give it a guaranteed hit, of course. Plus on hit, of course. -12, of course, and no funny punish for Leroy. So we get a while standing 4. This is character identity ruining. We've only had her for Tekken 8 so far. It's not like we can make definitive calls on what her character identity is supposed to be. But I feel like I had a pretty good idea when I saw her not have very good low pokes and then suddenly be given one in Season 2. Tekken 7 Shaheen didn't have the strongest lows ever, so Tekken 8 Shaheen naturally needed to have the strongest lows ever. The slide was retooled, giving him a completely new guaranteed hit, which, yeah, kinda doesn't have the best Oki. So, here's a slide vortex. This requires execution, so it's actually completely fine to do, you know? This should never be removed. We all love it when something is hidden behind execution, just like all of Kuma in Tekken 7, everyone's favorite character. Sidestep 2 has absurd range for a -12 low, which it used to be -13. This is something that should actually reasonably be -14. But can't always get what we want. This is the new low in Season 2, down 1. This is oddly linear for a Season 2 low. They are rarely this conservative with the properties on these. +4 on hit is a little insane, of course. And -13 on block, again, this should reasonably be -14. Counter hit wise, it doesn't exactly do much, but 28 frames is definitely a real number that this game has in it. It's not high damage, but it is high frames. I do think this is a little busted, but out of the Season 2 lows, it might be the most balanced, which is saying literally nothing. That statement is meaningless. This low used to be seeable and launch punishable. Other than that, I mean, it's not the most broken low to have ever existed or anything, but it does give a strong low into the stance, which used to just not be the case. And that's a low heat smash. 41 damage instead of 45, so Lee has a friend. not actually homing, so Lee has a friend. It's okay, we don't have to lie about properties on this part. We're not on Lee anymore, right? But it is the standard -14 low heat smash. Which we all know should be going away. There are no lows. Steve has no lows to talk about. And I'm not even joking, they're all just the Tekken 7 lows, except for down back 3-2, which is an actually well-nerfed low, and reasonably so. The low was broken in Tekken 7, it low launched for fuck's sake in some angles. But we can talk about a low's function. It's a thing that's meant to make you duck. And this does fulfill that. Is this broken on its own, just looking at it like this? No. But we have to consider context. The way that Steve generally enters Lionheart in Season 2 has been given to moves that allow him to frame trap you on block, meaning he doesn't have to earn the mix-up. He used to have to hit you with a Lionheart entry move in order to gain enough frames for anything to be enforceable. This season made it so that he can do a thing on block and just force 50-50. This is incredibly cringe, even if it wasn't Steve. However, even going further back in time, we can look at how this fucking stance got completely ruined. That is not only a launcher, which it wasn't originally, but also a reversal break, which it wasn't originally. This means that it beats all parries and all armors. And why is this? Originally, when Steve went to Lionheart, he couldn't even really frame trap an armor with anything from that stance. So the main counterplay to Steve going into Lionheart was to armor him, because there was very little risk in doing so, and it covered the entire stance, right? No, it didn't. It didn't cover everything. He could sidestep the armor and punish you harshly for it. But people pretended that armoring Steve was a true full option select. So Bamco heard them. They got heard on their complaints. And this move was made into a reversal break. This move is already supposed to be the low of the stance. It does essentially hell sweep damage. Granted, some of it's recoverable, much like a hell sweep. But it doubles as the thing that covers any and all attempts to try to counterplay the stance, since due to the stance being designed like ass, the mid option is a true homing move, because he needs it. This means there is no movement options for you. We're digressing into the realm of a stance and its mix-up potential in the context of this game rather than a low. Hell, we're realistically talking about a high. But I do think that this is important to address in the spirit of things, despite it not being a low. Last and probably the least, Tekken 8 newcomer Victor, finally here. This used to be a character designed around bat lows. And yeah, Season 2 happened, and no more of that. For you see, we have a 24 damage running low, meaning it has infinite range, of course it does. It's very good on hit, which would mean -18 on block, but that is not -18, that is -14, the coward's number. On any other day it probably would be, but we are not living in a state of the game where the devs consider -18 a reasonable number to be put as the risk to a low, even if it's a weapon low with ridiculous damage, a counter hit property, and thankfully not homing. But everything else it has going for it. This is ridiculously good, and completely broken given the character it was put on. Now this low, this is just Heihachi's down back 3, why am I complaining about it? At least it's not homing, is it, you know? Yeah. Heihachi down back 3 was homing. Well, this has a counter hit property, which... This used to be minus 14 due to this. This character was not meant to have good lows. So this being minus 14, while still having a really, really strong counter hit property, and fairly good tracking, all things considered. It kind of made it completely justifiable. But now it's minus 13 for no reason other than we wanted things to be safer. That's... stupid. There's another low in the same cast as Alisa's down 4-1+2. This is unduckable. And on block, you have to duck it and otherwise eat shit. This is a very harsh counter hit property to have on something like this. But this low, granted, was launch punishable at some point. I say at some point because not always. It used to be minus 13 in the stands and he had to eat the launch if he didn't do the follow-up. There was a lot of risk to this low. Season 2 isn't the thing that changed this. This is a much, much earlier change than that, but a change nevertheless. Granted, this isn't horrendous. I've recorded down forward 2 here to show that things could be much worse, because I feel like if it was designed in Season 2, he would absolutely recover in time to launch my ass for this. But he can still escape the launch. This is the EI Hell Sweep. This is among the best Hell Sweeps to have ever existed. It being a weapon low is a little bit irrelevant, but it does matter a little, at least, considering it exists in the same stance as a low that you want to low parry. Worth noting. 30 damage, non-recoverable because it's all standing hits, and the knockdown untechable, which is very notably strong. This is not a thing you usually see on a Hell Sweep. And this is a thing you literally never see on a Hell Sweep. It combos on a grounded hit, giving you probably the best Oki Hell Sweep in the game. Very high damage on the grounded hit. Normally when you do an Oki Hell Sweep like this, the first hit will hit and push them away, and the second hit will whiff. Like in the case of Leroy's, if I do that on the opponent, they will eat the first hit, tech roll, and launch me for whiffing the second one. Or block the second one and launch me. Not the case for Victor's. Now, is this low ultra broken? No, it's a full crouch low. Which used to mean something. It used to mean that it was slow, but I've recorded it here pretty much as fast as humanly possible. Does this look slow to you? No, it's not. And that's why it's actually reasonable for it to be launch punishable, because if it wasn't this fucking fast, I would have to argue the opposite of why the hell is it. But it is unseeable. You can do this very quickly. Why is it here though? This used to be pretty much reasonable. Well, it would be because of this stance entry being added in Season 2. This stance entry gives him a frame trap quite easily. I'm not saying this is uncounterplayable, this can be counterplayed. But it is a very toxic situation on a low that used to be +0 on hit, all things considered. And a low heat smash. This used to be -15. This used to be one of the reasonable ones, and then they decided that it shouldn't be one anymore. Got yet another +1 damage on the wall hit. Oddly enough, 39 instead of not, 40 damage. But it is the usual -14 instead of the -15 that it used to be. When it was -15, I think I was fine with this move. There is nothing fine about it anymore. To start off with Ling, we have her Tekken 7 down back 2 here. It was a new move she got at one point during that game. Notably, Season 2 removed the ability to do 14 frame punishes on this, so this is no longer a real punish. She can backturn armor it. This is +12 on counter hit, and that does give guaranteed hits. It's not just a bunch of frames. That is also a new thing that I really don't agree with. Other than that, I mean, this is largely just the low from Tekken 7. However, this is not. This is thankfully a very conservative +3 on hit, So she has to take a big risk in order to stop you from doing things against it. However, this is impossible to escape because not only does the first hit have really good tracking to this side, but also the second hit is just true homing completely. You are not getting away from it. So you do have to react to that at low parry it, which is annoying, but it is doable. But realistically, it should just not be a tracking move at all. This has always existed in her kit, but it's just never been a natural combo before. So Tekken 8 Season 2 changed all of that. And just like down back 2, this is not a real punish because of Season 2 as well. Not the most offensive low, but it is there. This used to be seeable. It's another one of these where they just made a move faster to make it more viable. This was 24 frames, it's now 20 frames. I really don't know if there's anything more that needs to be said. Hypnotist 3 on first glance doesn't really appear to be anything at all other than a bunch of frames. Plus 6 is a lot. Key thing here is you don't ever see this low. You see this low. When Ling is in heat, this is the default version of Hypnotist 3. It remains minus 13 despite gaining a knockdown property. And if she charges it another level from there, it is a low launcher. And again, it remains minus 13. It does always have the low parry option for you. But that doesn't really matter much because it's often used immediately on Oki. So this is a genuinely huge problem in the game in terms of how to deal with Ling and her wall game. You don't have a realistic way of dealing with it. Regarding Yoshi, we don't have a ton of things to be going through here. It's largely annoyances, if anything. But still, like, this is a pretty big direct buff to this move's hit situation. Considering he used to have to do a wall standing 4 to get a homing frame trap on you, now you get a much higher damage homing mid-frame trap. As well as a better pickup if you get a counter hit launch. That's not really that big of a deal. It's this that bothers me a lot more. I tend to whiff punish this a lot because I hang out at the tip range of this move, trying to bait it out, because hey, I should play to my character's strengths. And in this matchup, you are losing 9-1 essentially, so you might as well do something. And they took out one of the things that I could do against a lot of Yoshis. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I do have the ability to tornado this, but a float punish giving a lot less damage than a non-float punish, that does mean something. That is not an incidental change. Now this low hasn't changed at all. But we're gonna pull an Alisa boot 3 here and be like, well actually yeah, it has. This is an aerial low. Not a bugged one, thankfully. But it is unparryable. And therefore this is actually quite a strong low for once in this game. This, you know, does everything it used to do, even. Is it broken? No, but I don't like the fact that lows are unparryable for no reason, other than it's in the air. I think that's a stupid justification. But it's Yoshi. It is Yoshi. There's nothing to really discuss with this. Everyone knows every argument ever made regarding this move. The downplays and the lies and the upplays even, because those exist. There's people that say like, this has no counterplay whatsoever. You can get it to whiff at the wall and launch him for it, which a lot of people don't do. Granted, yeah, that's a thing. Genuinely goes unpunished a lot of the time when it could be punished. In situations like this, you can do that. This does not excuse the move. The move has no place in a game like this. Maybe even modern Tekken as a whole. I do think this is genuinely far too good to exist anymore. I don't care if they've taken out all of the damage. I don't care about anything. This is far too good. Zafina doesn't have a ton of things going on. Like, I mean, down 3 is +7 now, but it also doesn't counter hit launch. Scarecrow down forward 4 is still a +7 on hit counter hit launching low, but it's always been that, so it's fine, right? Fucking Mantis 3-1 is a safe low mid string. and it launches on the mid for some reason. Whatever. Regarding Tekken 8 stuff, there just really isn't that much to think about. We do have the funny numbers on the lows sometimes, this being one of those with the new knockdown-ish kind of thing that gives insane plus frames. Season 2 gave this to her. It's not broken. It is, in fact, still launch punishable. But I think plus 23 might have been a bit of a stupid idea. It also gives her the install, which gives you a lot of reasons to actually press this low. But we have a genuine problem move here, for example. She used to have a low heat smash from her scarecrow stance, and it was replaced, which, I mean, this is at least something with no wall break or floor break or anything. It doesn't do anything to you, it just knocks you down. But it is still a hell sweep that is minus 14. These don't stop being broken just because, oh, it has something in it. It's still a hell sweep and it's still not launch punishable. You can low parry it though. Yeah, hello, yes, welcome back to Leroy's phase. I guess I'm done. Future me would know better than me, but I'm making an educated guess. If you think this content is good, I'm never gonna make anything like this ever again because it's a lot of work and I don't like doing it. But you can go watch my stream at twitch.tv/dustl and you'll see the worst stream you've ever laid your eyes upon. Do not like or comment or subscribe. Actually, do comment. The whole point is discussion. But any of those other things, you're not allowed to do those. Okay, bye.